He's a really nice guy behind the scenes. I mean, do you have to hate your opponents to win?
Can I touch your hair? Can I feel? I love your hair, by the way.
Random.
It's never happened before? Because everybody that's
on
sitting in
live
this
TV
chair
now
is thinking it, I can assure you.
Welcome to the Dark Times channel. So here we go again, back with another one. And so let's go ahead and get into it. Recently, y'all's girl Sage Steele, I believe she just settled a lawsuit with Espn, and she's looking to spread her wings, to spread her mammy wings a little bit further now. So she's in the headlines talking this and that.
When you fill out your census, I'm like, well, I don't know when the last time I filled out my census was, but if they make you choose a race, she's like, what are you going to put? I go, well, both. She's like, well, you can't. He goes, well, what about Barack Obama chose black and he's biracial? Well, congratulations to the president. That's his thing. I go, I think that's fascinating considering his black dad was nowhere to be found, but his white mom and grandma raised him. But hey, you do you. I'm going to do.
And this is actually an interview that Sage Steele did a while back with former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler. And Jay Cutler is somebody who's been on that alt-right conservative tip ever since he retired from the NFL. And so Sage Steele couldn't resist an opportunity to go on his platform, of course, to mammy it up. And she was talking about her biracial background and how she refused to identify as black, basically. And that's cool. That's your prerogative. If a biracial person sees themselves as this or that, that's their prerogative. 9 times out of 10, a biracial person or a person that's of mixed descent is going to see themselves as their father sees them. Is going to see themselves through the lens of the father. If the father's white, they're going to identify as white. If the father is so-called black, then they're going to identify as black and gravitate towards that. And so that's not the issue. The issue comes into play when you have a biracial person or a person of mixed descent, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to try to be accepted by one group or another. That's where the issue comes in. That's where the problems come in. Because 9 times out of 10, that person is going to spew out whatever they feel like they need to spew out in order to be accepted by that community. Almost feeling like they can earn some brownie points. If I spew enough alt-right conservative talking points at the detriment of the so-called black community, then maybe I'll be accepted a little bit more. And that's Sage Steele to a T. That's been her entire career. How many brownie points can she earn by spewing negative talking points about the so-called black community? Even in that clip I just played, she couldn't resist at taking a shot at Obama and him wanting to identify as so-called black. As if Obama had a choice. We don't make the census. We don't come up with the boxes that allows a person to identify as this or that. If they wanted there to be a biracial box, you better believe there would be a biracial box. But they don't want a biracial box. They don't want to muddy the waters. You got 1 drop of black blood, there's no such thing as biracial. You're black. We don't want those dominant genes erasing our genes. It's biology and survival. It's got nothing to do with anything else. Like I said, if they wanted a biracial box, they would have had one. Or better yet, why can't you just be American? If they wanted a utopian society where everybody was equal and everybody was included and everybody was on a fair playing field, there wouldn't be racial groups. There would be national groups. You're American, you're non-American, you're an immigrant, whatever the case may be. They would have those different boxes, but they don't, and it's for a reason. And so Sage Steele and Lamont Hill got into it on Twitter just a little bit. They got into a little bit of a back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and read just a little bit of their exchange, and then, of course, I'll chime in. And so after Sage Steele's appearance on Megyn Kelly, she chimed in on Twitter to say, for years, I've been called a sellout because I identify as biracial, or that I'm not black enough. For all those biracial kids out there, I pray that you don't wait as long as I did to realize that you don't have to accept this hypocritical BS. You are perfect the way you are, and please don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Thank you, Megyn Kelly, for allowing me to share this. And so first off, nobody ever claimed that Sage Steele was a sellout because she refused to identify as so-called black. And she knows good and well that's not the reason. And Mark Lamont Hill is going to call her out for that very same reason. And Mark Lamont Hill chimed in to say, no one has ever called Sage Steele a sellout for this reason. No one. And then, of course, Sage still had to respond to that. And she said, when people like this have the audacity to speak to others and claim they don't know what others have experienced, especially people they've never met, never talked to, don't have the decency, courage to reach out and have an actual conversation, these people hate the C word. And Sage still responded by saying, when people like this have the audacity to speak for others and claim they don't know what others have experienced, especially people they've never met, never talked to, don't have the decency, courage to reach out and have an actual conversation. These people hate the C word. It is so predictable, and frankly, it reveals everything we need to know about their character. At Mark Lamont Hill, happy Sunday. And of course, Mark Lamont Hill responded. And he responded back by saying, with all due respect, Sage, you're missing the point. I don't claim to know your experiences. I'm explaining why black people call you a sellout. It's not because you're biracial, as our community is filled with biracial people. It's because your words and actions are viewed as anti-black. Nobody ever said Sage Steele was a sellout because she chose to identify as biracial. Nobody claimed Sage Steele was a sellout because she wasn't quote-unquote black enough. The issue always comes back to how you conduct yourself. Are you going to go out of your way to denigrate people within the black community to try to elevate yourself? These are the things that we look for when we talk about being a sellout. It's got nothing to do with political affiliations. It's got nothing to do with your religion. It's got nothing to do with any of those things. And so when Sage Steele brought up the fact that she's not black enough, that's a projection. She knows what she's doing. She knows exactly what she's doing. Sage Steele and Malika Andrews are probably the only two so-called black women, or biracial women, whatever you want to call them, that would allow themselves to be put in this position on television, where a person will feel comfortable enough to do what this guy did, to do what this UFC fighter did to Sage Steele. Can I touch your hair? Oh my God. Oh my God, that's real. That's real hair. Ladies and gentlemen, that's real hair.
He's a really nice guy behind the scenes. I mean, do you have to hate your opponents to win?
Can I touch your hair? Can I feel? I love your hair, by the way.
Random.
It's never happened before, because everybody that's
on
sitting in this chair is thinking it, I can assure you. That's real hair, people, and it's very soft, I might add.
Like a fucking chia pet. That's what we're talking about when it comes to being a sellout. You can be conservative, you can be liberal, you can be whatever you want to be. You can be an independent thinker and not be a sellout. But the problem is when you turn yourself into a mascot and a house pet by making a fool of yourself. Because they don't respect you. You can tell every single platform that she goes on, every time she's around or doing an interview with a so-called white person, you can tell they don't respect her. They don't respect anything that's coming out of her mouth. Because if she'll turn on them, that means she'll turn on us. And so she'll never be accepted for that reason alone. Like I said, if she was an independent thinker, a conservative, or whatever the case may be, that would be one thing. She would have and garner the respect of everybody she wanted to. But she disrespects herself and she allows herself to be disrespected. And so she'll never be respected by anybody, not even in her own household. And so at the end of the day, it's okay to identify as biracial or whatever group you want to identify as. That's not an issue. You know, at the very most, you might come across as being a little delusional and being a little bit out of touch with the reality of the way things are. But nobody's going to call you a sellout for that. And Sage Steele knows this. But I thought this is a good teaching moment to maybe some of my biracial listeners out there and my biracial viewers. I thought this is a good learning lesson. Be who you are, be who you want to be, but don't be a sellout, because nobody respects a sellout. Not even the people that you're trying to sell out for. They don't respect that. They're going to use you up and spit you out. But that's all I got for this one. Definitely chime in the comment sections and let me know how y'all feel about this. And as usual, peace and chaos.